Welcome to Understand the Math. In this video, I'm going to walk through example problems and teach you how to factor the difference of two squares and then how to factor perfect square trinomials. I'll show you the formulas to use and walk through each example step by step. Let's start by learning how to factor the difference of two squares. In this green box, I have a squared minus b squared. That's called the difference of two squares. And the way that you factor it is you take a plus b and add it together, and then you multiply that by a minus b. Let's see how this works and go through these example problems. The first example is x squared minus 25. We want to begin by finding a and b so that we can apply this formula. Our a is going to be the square root of our first term, which is the square root of x squared. So that's going to be equal x. And then b is the square root of our second term, which is 25. And that's going to be equal to 5. If we apply our formula then, we have x squared minus 25 is going to be a plus b. So that's going to be x plus 5. And then a minus b, which is x minus 5. So our difference of two squares factors like that. Let's do example number 2. Again, we'll begin with a. So a is going to be the square root of our first term, 9x squared, so that's going to be 3x. And then b is going to be the square root of our second term, that's our b squared, so that's 16. And this is equal to 4. We can then write 9x squared minus 16 as a plus b, so that's going to be 3x plus 4, and then a minus b, which is 3x minus 4. And that's our factored form. Let's now do our third example. This is equal to a squared, and this is equal to b squared. So our a is the square root of 25x squared, which is 5x, and then our b is going to be the square root of 16y squared, and that's going to be equal to 4y. We can then say that 25x squared minus 16y squared is going to be a plus b, so 5x plus 4y, and then a minus b, which is 5x minus 4y. Let's now look at example number 4. This one's a little bit harder because notice that we have an x to the fourth there. X to the fourth is a squared, and then our 16 is going to be b squared. Let's now find out what a is. So a squared is equal to x to the fourth. So that means that a is going to be x squared. We just take the square root of both sides. And then b is going to be the square root of 16, which is equal to 4. We then have x to the fourth minus 16 is equal to a plus b, so that's x squared plus 4, and then a minus b, which is x squared minus 4. Let's do 2 more examples. You might want to pause the video and see if you can do these on your own. Our first term is our a squared, and then our second term is our b squared. A is then the square root of 9x to the fourth, so that's going to be 3x squared. And then b is going to be the square root of 49, which is 7. This gives us 9x to the fourth minus 49 is going to be a plus b. That's 3x squared plus 7. And then a minus b, which is 3x squared minus 7. Now let's do the last one. And of course, this is the hardest one. We're going to set our first term equal to a squared, and then our second term equal to b squared. So I'm actually going to write out a squared and b squared with this one. So we have a squared is equal to 16x to the fourth. If we take the square root of both sides, we get that a is equal to 4x squared. And then let's do the same thing for b. B squared is equal to 25y squared. take the square root of both sides, and we get that b is equal to 5y. Now we can say that 16x to the fourth minus 25y squared is equal to a plus b, so that's 4x squared plus 5y, and then we have 4x squared minus 5y. And that's it. We did it. Let's now go on and learn how to factor perfect square trinomials. We're going to walk through 3 examples where we factor what's called perfect square trinomials. A perfect square trinomial is a lot easier than it sounds. It's just a quadratic with 3 terms, such as a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. The first and the last terms are what we call perfect squares, such as a squared and b squared. And then our middle term is 2 times the first and last term. Our middle term is 2ab, and it's just 2 times the first term times our last term. Whenever we have a perfect square trinomial, it's going to factor as a plus b quantity squared if there is a plus in front of the 2ab, and then it's going to factor as a minus b quantity squared if we have a negative in front of the 2ab. Let's now walk through some examples. In our first example, we're going to factor x squared plus 6x plus 9. To solve these types of problems, we're going to let our first term be equal to a squared. So I'm going to write down that x squared is a squared. So that tells us that our a is just equal to x. And then our last term, 9, is going to be our b squared. So that tells us that b is equal to 3, just taking the square root of both sides. And then we're going to check to make sure that our middle term, 6x, is indeed 2 times a times b, and it is because it's 2 times x times 3. So that works out. Now we can go ahead and write our answer in factored form. We're going to say that x squared plus 6x plus 9 is going to be a plus b because we have a plus in front of the 6x. So our a is x, and then our b is 3, and that's squared. And that's our answer in factored form. Now let's do another one. Let's look at our second example. We're going to do it just like we did the first example. Our first term is 4x squared. We're going to set that equal to a squared. And then we'll take the square root of both sides. So we have a is equal to 2x. And then we're going to take our last term, which is 9, is equal to b squared. That's just like we had in our first example. And that tells us that b is equal to 3. And then just to make sure, our 12x, we're going to ignore the negative for a minute. Let's see if it's 2 times a times b. So 2 times 2x times 3 is definitely 12x. So that's good. Now we can go ahead and write our answer in factored form. We have 4x squared minus 12x plus 9 is our a, which we found was 2x. And then notice that we have a negative here. So we're going to have a 2x minus our b, which is 3 squared. And that's our final answer. Let's do one more. You might want to pause the video and see if you can do this one on your own. It's hard, but I bet you can do it. I'm going to start by letting our first term, 9x squared, be equal to a squared. And then we'll take the square root of both sides, and we'll get that a is equal to 3x. And then I'm going to take our last term, 25y squared, let that equal b squared. Take the square root of both sides, and we get b is equal to 5y. Now let's just do a check to make sure that we have a perfect square trinomial. We have 30xy as our middle term, and let's see if this is 2 times a times b. If we take 2, multiply it by a, which is 3x, multiply by b, which is 5y. Let's see here. We get 15 times 2, which is 30xy. So we're good. Now we can write our answer in factored form. We have 9x squared plus 30xy plus 25y squared. And then here we go. We have a plus here, so we're going to have a plus in our answer, and that's going to be a plus b. So this is 3x plus 5y, and then that becomes squared. And we did it. There's our final answer. I hope that you now feel more comfortable factoring the difference of two squares and factoring perfect square trinomials. I would suggest that you work on some more practice problems to make sure you have the hang of this.
If this video has been helpful to you, please consider subscribing to my channel. Keep believing in yourself and have a great rest of your day.